Oi, pessoal, bem-vindos e bem-vindas ao Bleeding Metal Podcast. Meu nome é Suzana, meus pronomes são she, her. E hoje eu tô aqui com a minha amiga...
I did not understand a word of that, but I'm Kiki. Hello, your co-host. My pronouns are she, her. And this is a very special and a different episode of the Bleeding Metal Podcast. Suzana was just introducing us today in Portuguese because we are live from Brazil and Ecuador, and we're talking about Latin American metal today.
This is a very special episode, and it's probably one of the few episodes that we're going to have where we are almost in the same time zone. Yay!
Almost. Yeah, not close enough still, but very, very close.
Almost the same weather. We're almost neighbors now.
Yes. Well, I don't know about the weather. I'm looking out my window and it's very cloudy and it's been raining a lot recently, but it's also still very, very warm over here in Quito where I am. I arrived here for the holidays and I will again be doing some volunteering with a project for prevention of violence against women. And I'm super excited. I start work next week. So I've had a few days of rest and recovery, even though just now I feel like I'm getting a flu. So,
oh no.
Yeah. So it's been nice though. It's been really good to see friends that I hadn't seen in a long time and to spend some time with my family as well. So yeah, hello everyone from Quito, Ecuador. And today, as we were saying, we're going to recommend some very cool Latin American bands and talk about how the scene is over here. So why don't you start?
Yeah.
Suzana, I think Brazil is very, very famous for being big metal fans and for wanting every single metal band in the world to play there.
Yes.
That's the meme.
Yes, we are the come to Brazil people. And now it's a thing. It's a meme. It's an internet thing. And now I think every band that wants to be someone in this world has to come to Brazil. It's just the way it is now. But in preparation for this episode, I was just listening to so many good bands today, just checking them out again, just keeping them on my rotation. And there are so many good albums that were released last year that I didn't have the chance really to check them out. And I was doing this today and I was missing out. So many good things released in the few months, the last semester of 2024. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm so happy to say that so many amazing and talented women doing so much work and releasing so much good music. So I'm happy with my Brazilian scene over here. I think we are this big isolated country. We are big, but I think we stay on our lane. I don't know. I personally don't know a lot of what is happening with our neighbors. So I am happy to talk about the Brazilian scene, but I will be happy to hear about what is happening in Ecuador as well. But two of my favorites that were released the last month of 2024 was this album called Spiritus Rupestris by a band called Miasthenia. And they make Brazilian pagan black metal. I was so interested in I had never heard anyone doing anything like that. And it's pretty much what it sounds like because it's very black metal, which is not something that I listen to a lot. But what they do is very cool, very interesting because they do this interesting mix of Brazilian sounds and what is traditional black metal. And they talk about traditional Brazilian themes like indigenous culture. So that's where the Brazilian pagan theme comes from. Mm-hmm. And I am so impressed with the vocalist. I hope I get to interview her at some point because she does everything a black metal vocalist is expected to do. But in this album, she does a lot of clean singing, and I was immediately a fan. I don't really love black metal singing, so that's why I don't listen to black metal a lot. but she does it really well. And her clean vocals are so cool and sound so
Ooh.
mystical and epic, and it goes together really well. So I was very impressed by what she can do. Her name is Suzana and Kiki, so we almost share the same name. And yeah, and she's a PhD in history, and she's a professor in one of the biggest, most famous universities here in Brazil. It must be an amazing conversation. I'm going to keep her on my list of people that I want to interview. So yeah, the band is called Miasthenia, and the album is called Spiritus Rupestris. It's pretty cool. And the other one that caught my attention that everyone was talking about, but I hadn't checked before, is this band called Papangu. And they are my neighbors, almost my neighbors. I was reading their Instagram page, and they said that they come from the easternmost part of Brazil. And I'm like, that's where I'm from. I'm almost at the eastern part of Brazil, the eastern tip of Brazil. It turns out they are from the neighboring state, a little bit more to the east from where I am. They make this kind of progressive hard rock avant-garde with little elements of metal. So not necessarily a metal band, but some elements here and there. They are a bit too avant-garde for my personal taste. I kept expecting things to get a bit heavier, but they don't. It's not really their thing, but there are some metal, some heaviness sprinkled in there. And yeah, they are really cool. And I was just reading their Spotify profile. They say that the drummer is forró percussionist. This is a very traditional rhythm in the northeast part of Brazil.
Okay.
And not heavy at all. But then he also specialized in death metal. So I think it's the only drummer that I know in the world that is specialized in both forró and death metal. So you can hear that in the band, that they do this crazy mix. I think you can hear bossa nova, you can hear a little bit of forró there, and also some progressive rock and growlings and some metal elements. So it's pretty crazy.
Oh, wow.
Really crazy. It's really a wow. I think it was one of the most interesting albums that I got to listen to recently.
Yeah, it does sound really interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like they put everything on a blender and that's it. But it does it does go together really well.
Okay.
My favorite track is this one called Maracutaia, which is an expression for like a corruption scheme. You know, when you're scheming with someone to do something bad, it's called a maracutaia. The track's really good. And at the end of the song, they have this instrumental part where they have a lot of guitar riffs with a lot of distortion. So it's pretty heavy. But they intercut this with, I think it's a xylophone or something very soft. It almost sounds like toy instruments. So, so it's pretty cute. And I was very curious. I couldn't identify the sound. I was just like, sounds like a xylophone, sounds like a kid's toy. What is this? But it's intercut with kind of heavish guitar. So it's one of my favorite tracks. So yeah, those two bands, they caught my attention. They were one of the best releases from 2024, according to Brazilian press. And they really do deserve the spotlight. What about you? Have you been listening to good Ecuadorian music since you got there?
No, not really. It's the Ecuadorian scene is really weird. But before we switch countries, it's funny because I was just watching a content creator on TikTok who was giving business advice and how to place well with the Spotify algorithm. And this person was saying that, and it's a British band. So they paid for Instagram ads in the UK, in Sweden, Finland, Germany, and Brazil. And the argument was that the European countries are, of course, places where they would like to play. But Brazil, it's just so huge, and there are so many people that if you target the country, you will for sure get plays, and you will, your Spotify numbers will get better. And and then he went on to say, of course, we would love to play in Brazil one day. It's not going to happen for a while, but the bookers who want to hire us to play in Europe will see those big numbers on the streaming platforms, and they will hire us to play in Europe anyway, because they won't necessarily see that the people listening to their music are all the way in a different continent.
Yes.
So I was like, oh my gosh, that is so interesting. Might be genius.
That makes a lot of sense. And it kind of ties with the fact that, especially the second semester of last year, I was seeing a lot of promoted posts on Instagram for smaller bands, even from Europe. And I was like, yeah, okay, I guess they found me because I follow a lot of bands. I'm part of a podcast
because
about
of your music taste, of course.
Yes, but I guess it has to do with the fact that I am Brazilian and they're doing this. It's a good strategy. When we recorded the episode about Linkin Park, P and I, we were talking about the come to Brazil strategy.
Yeah.
And I will say the same thing that I said back then, that any band that wants to play in Brazil or wants to have the big numbers, we are, of course, not as rich as Germany, for example. So, of course, we are not going to be able to pay a lot for tickets, for merch, for anything. So I do understand that it's very expensive for big bands or any band to come here. But we will give you social media engagement like to the roofs. We can offer you that for sure. We are going to create memes. We are going to flood your page with comments in Portuguese that you're not going to understand, or very specific jokes that you can just ignore them, or it's well-meaning, I promise. But we can offer you that. So I think it's interesting that people are noticing that and using Brazil's power online to boost their numbers. Yeah, that we can offer. Absolutely, 100%. And not only, of course, we are a big country, but we are also online a lot. We are very connected. We love social media. We love memes and jokes, and we are everywhere. We flood everyone's page that we like. So we can offer you crazy engagement for sure.
That might be a bit of a Latin American thing. Like when Germany started with the whole privacy laws and everything, it was something that nobody cares about over here. Not really. And of course, there are positive and negative sides to everything. But to a certain degree, the digital industry boomed over here, especially for smaller companies, because everyone does business over WhatsApp and over Instagram. And it was super easy to just start a business and sell stuff through Instagram and WhatsApp. And in Germany, that is unheard of. That is, you wouldn't do that. And it's funny because I think that is, in a sense, all of that bureaucracy and all of those laws that are, of course, meant to protect us as consumers, but have actually stifled Germany's growth in digital business. But that is a different story. What I was thinking about is the fact that, that's why people over here are also very, very much more on their phones, and even for work, even professionally, right? So I absolutely can understand that Brazil is actually a big push on social media for well, in general probably, but also for metal bands all around the world. And Brazil is also, I think, just in terms of population, has way bigger cities than Ecuador, for example. And so usually if you have a band coming to tour in Latin America, if they really have to, like, if the tour is not huge, if they have to select cities, like, for example, you were just mentioning Linkin Park, I think they did a very short Latin America tour, and Brazil was, of course, there. The priorities would be Brazil, Mexico, and Argentina. And after those are covered, they start to include Chile, Colombia, and then maybe Ecuador. And that absolutely sucks, but I am really, really happy to see that is kind of changing and getting better. I was just researching this because I've seen posters all over the city because apparently Amon Amarth was just here in October of 2024. Napalm Death was also here in October of 2024. In Flames was here in 2023. Even Visions of Atlantis and Anneke van Giersbergen with Marco Gietala were here in 2023. So things are slowly looking up. 5 years ago, when I was here for the first time working at the same project I'm working at now, funnily enough, I met up with Lindsay Schoolcraft because she was here playing with Cradle of Filth. So things are getting a little bit better. I also saw there is big metal fest called Metal Fest.
I was going to ask you about metal festivals, but you do have one, Metal Fest.
Yeah, at least that one. And it happened in April in 2024. I haven't seen anything about this year if they're going to do it again. But the poster looks pretty cool, actually. The headliners were Anthrax and Emperor. And then within Temptation, Killswitch Engage, Gamma Ray, Sepultura, nice. Exodus, Overkill. So it's a little bit on the more old school side of things. But then again, Amorphis and Soen also played there. There are a few local bands like No Token and Descomunal. And I just saw a clip of their Instagram within Temptation playing. And Sharon had an Ecuadorian flag over her corset. That was so cute. Cool. That was really, really beautiful. The thing I hated about that post, though, was that they were promoting it as Within Temptation, the only band with a woman. And I was like, that is nothing to be proud of.
Yeah. But do you think that promotion was coming from the band or the festival?
No, the festival.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that's really tacky. And
it's like, yeah, if she's the only woman on stage, you should be ashamed.
Yep.
And you should look at your booker with a very, very mean face, as in, you did not do this well.
No, it's like, let us... Look at us being very charitable. We have this one woman.
Yeah.
Yay. Look at us.
Fuck that. Yeah, but I mean, to make a big metal festival here is a huge thing. Like, we don't have the numbers. We are, of course, there's a lot of metalheads in Quito, but and then in Ecuador in general, but we're not a huge country. And that means the percentage of metalheads is probably not enough ticket sales to pull more bands more often.
Yeah. And what about traveling? Because the thing is, metal is not mainstream here in Brazil either. But even if we get a small percentage of metalheads, it still can be a lot of people just because of numbers. And usually what happens is that big bands will play in São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro or both. And everyone from everywhere in the country will try to travel to those places. And of course, that's very expensive. Not everyone has a place to stay in those places. So it's a hassle, but some people will do that. And that's how big bands will get, crowded football stadiums to play in São Paulo or Rio, even if they're a metalhead or a metal band. Of course, we only get the big ones as well. We're not getting smaller bands in stadiums anyway. But it's still possible for a big band to come here and get a crowded stadium for them, not just from people of São Paulo or Rio, but also people that travel everywhere. What about in Ecuador? Is it possible to travel from? It is possible, but is it easy to travel from other parts of the country to Quito, or maybe to, I don't know, maybe Chile or Argentina to see a concert?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, inside Ecuador, it's of course possible. Security, safety is an issue, especially nowadays. And we have 3 big cities, but I'm guessing Quito would be. It's the only city that I see on tour, on tour posters and stuff like that. So it would draw a crowd. I think if it's a huge band, I mean, huge international bands don't come very often. So I'm very sure that people come all over from all over the country, but it's not that easy. I think, it would have to be planned very long ahead and probably doable, and people will probably do it, but it's not like, I mean, when in Germany, I go to a city an hour and a half away for a concert and then go home that same night. It's absolutely not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same here either.
And for the bands as well, I mean, that's why Latin American countries are also so difficult to coordinate, because you can't have like a tour bus.
Yes.
The cities are all so far away that you have to fly in between for sure.
Yes.
And that is more expensive. That is more, tiresome as well for the musicians. I just found this tour poster for Latin American tour of, I think, European band. So I knew this band played at a festival I was at just the past summer, but I didn't really see them. I wasn't really interested. They're called Gutalax.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're Czech. They're Czech and they play grindcore, so not very much my cup of tea. But they are coming to Latin America, to South America even. Yeah, there's no Mexico in here. In March of 2025. And so they have 4 Brazilian dates.
Oh.
And then they go to Peru,
Whoa.
Paraguay, Argentina, Chile, Ecuador, and Colombia.
That is a South American tour. That's what we can call a South American tour.
Yeah, that is a really good one too. And I didn't think they would be like that big, like the band.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think they would be that big. But okay, they're playing. The 4 Brazilian dates are a night after the other. Then they have 2 days off, and then Peru, Paraguay, Argentina, Chile, Ecuador, and Colombia. Oh my gosh, all the rest are also night after night. So that's gonna be deadly.
Yes.
All the flights in between and everything. Oof.
Respect. A lot of respect.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
But it's probably going to be a very rich experience for them as people and as a band, because that is a proper South American tour. They can say, like, I did tour South America properly. I didn't just go to, Rio de Janeiro and then Buenos Aires and then Mexico and then the US.
And that's it.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's really cool. I was watching this interview with Chris Harms from Lord of the Lost. I think he was a bit annoyed with the Brazilian fans or the South American fans in general, but I think specifically Brazilians, because we do have the whole come to Brazil thing, and they are coming. And I think they do have I think they have 4 dates in Brazil or something like that. I think they are playing in smaller towns in São Paulo as well. Okay. Which is really cool. But of course, if you play 4 places in Brazil, that is nothing. It's still very far from where I live, for example. And a lot of people kept just posting stuff on their pages. Again, Brazilians floating their pages, saying, come to my hometown. How come you're coming to Brazil, but you're not coming to my hometown? So it was an update with how they come to Brazil, and they are finally here in Brazil. And we're like, yeah, but you're not playing my hometown. How come you're not playing this state? And how about that state?
Oh, gosh.
So he posted it. He didn't post a video. He sent it on the WhatsApp group. And he was kind of annoyed, saying, come on, we did all this work of coming to Brazil. And he explained all the things about, what you were just talking about, that it's difficult. The traveling is difficult. You have to catch a plane one day after the next, after the next, after the next. It's really tiresome. And we can't go to every city. It's a big country. Come on. And then he said something that I was like, oh, come on, Chris, don't say that. You're breaking my heart. I'm such a fan, but don't say this. He said, like, since we did the big work of coming to Brazil finally, could you try to arrange traveling from your city to where we are playing? Which makes a lot of sense. And like you said, like maybe in Germany, you catch a train and it's 1 hour and a half, and then you go back home and it's doable. But here it's just not. And I was like, come on, Chris, don't say this. It's not as easy And you think it is, I am sorry.
Yeah, the thing is also, though, like, some fans are very demanding too. It's like, what do you want us to do? Play your living room too? Like, really?
On my birthday, come on.
Yeah.
Bring me cake. But I think it's a joke. It's a joke. Come on. I think he was taking it seriously. Maybe he was taking it too hard. Like, oh my God, I'm disappointing the fans. But you're not. We promise you, we love you anyway. It's fine if you don't play in that one very specific city. It's okay. But I thought it was funny that he said, like, would you come see us where we are playing? And it's not as easy as it could be. Sure. Yeah.
And that is also for the bands, for the South American bands. It's not easy to tour around. Ecuador has, as I was saying, like the three main cities, Quito, Guayaquil, and Cuenca. Those are for sure. Then there are a few smaller cities, but like still big cities that I see bands like still playing. But then I think it's a big effort to do like an Argentina tour and stuff like that. And then to go to Brazil, there's also like the language barrier, and it's even more difficult. And so it's not as easy. Things are very far away. Yes. And the transport infrastructure is not as it's not as developed as in Europe or in North America, I guess. So it's not as easy to say, yeah, sure, we're gonna be a band here and we're gonna tour. So to answer one of Pia's questions, Pia wanted us to talk about whether the local scenes in South America are connected. And I think that is why it's difficult. I think if you're in the professional musician scene, then you start making contacts and maybe, touring around a little bit. But it's, as fans, we're not really connected.
No, we are not. And that's something that I wanted to ask you, really, because I feel very isolated in Brazil. So I know the Brazilian scene, but I don't know much about the South American scene. I feel really far. Like, I know we are neighbors, but I feel like very far away. And again, I live in the easternmost part of Brazil. So there is a lot of land between where I am and where you are right now.
Yeah, you're on the complete other side of the continent.
Yes. And we do have the rainforest in the middle. I can't just draw a straight line from here to where you are, because we wouldn't be able to just drive there. But still, I think that there is this geographical barrier for the Brazilian scene to be more integrated with the South American scene. And sure, the language is also a barrier, although I think 50% of the Brazilian population just pretends to speak Spanish. We're pretty sure we can speak Spanish for some reason. I don't know. But I wanted to ask you, what is going on with the Spanish-speaking South American countries? Are you integrated? Do you feel like a metal community with, Ecuador and Colombia and Venezuela, Chile, the other Spanish-speaking countries?
Not that much altogether. I think there's a bigger connection between Ecuador and Colombia just because we're neighboring countries. And Colombia has a few bigger festivals too.
Oh, cool.
And the cultural exchange is kind of easier. So we see a lot of Colombian bands playing here. And there's a few Ecuadorian bands playing in these festivals in Colombia, for example, as well. And that does not mean metal bands necessarily, but just musicians in general, modern young musicians in general. And then Argentina, of course, is very big in the rock history of Latin America. So that is like the next big thing, I guess. They also have some very big festivals, and just their export, they're just famous for having that influence, or for being a little more influential. So I think that's kind of it. Okay. Those are the links. And going to Argentina is also bigger. I think I looked at prices, for example, at flight prices, because I would love to go to Argentina someday. And I think flying from here, from Ecuador to Argentina, is more expensive than flying from Germany to Argentina.
It happens. Crazy. It happens that I try to Googled plane tickets from Brazil to Peru once, and it was more expensive than going to Germany. Yes.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's another barrier for having a more united South American community is how expensive everything is. It's just crazy. It's just crazy.
True.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the other kind of bigger festival where these bands play is Quito Fest. It's a festival that started, I think I was at like the first 3 editions of the festival back in 2003, 4 or 5. And it happens in December because of the city celebrations. The foundation of the city of Quito is celebrated in early December. And so that was kind of, it's funny because it started as an alternative so that people wouldn't go to bullfights.
Oh, okay.
Because bullfights were like the big thing during the Fiestas de Quito. And so the like more hippie alternative people who were all deadly against those and decided to make a music festival, and it's really cool. And at some point the festival was a thing for itself, and so they wanted to make it a summer festival, and they changed the dates to August, and that didn't really work that well. I don't know why. So now they're back to December, and looking at the lineup, it's like one day it's like pop rock, one day is like harder rock and metal, and one day is like more, I don't know, kind of a mix maybe. It's 3 days. If it's 3 days, it used to be like the pop day and the rock day, like the softer and the heavier day. But yeah, there are bands from Mexico, Argentina, also from the United States, and even from the Dominican Republic.
Nice.
For this year. So yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. Shout out to Quito Fest. I would love to go there again. But yeah, it's funny. The year I was here in early December, the festival still happened in August, and this time I came here in late December, and it happened in December.
Yeah, but if they want to have it like a summer thing, it has to be in December, because in August that's not summer.
Not really. We're here at the equator. We don't have summer, and summer is not a thing here. Well, we have eternal spring.
Well, yeah, sure. But if you do a festival, at least here in my hometown, if you want to do a festival in August, it's going to be the rain festival. It's not going to be an open air festival. It's impossible, because it's like August would be like the end of the rainy season, but June, July, it's winter, quote unquote. So that's when it rains. It rains too much all the time. So it would be impossible to have an open air festival around that time. So December, you should get together with the organizers and now just have a thing that it's in December, and then you travel in December, and then you get to go to the festival finally.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's very cool that you're having festivals in Quito and having bands from other South American and Latin American countries playing there. Because I don't think at least not on the top of my head, I can't remember South American bands playing in festivals here in Brazil. So I guess
crazy.
Maybe you are more united with the neighbors than we are.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think, of course, the biggest festival we have here is Rock in Rio, which is kind of like a mixed festival, like you described there as well. Like you do have the pop music, the rock music, the Brazilian music's not really a rock festival per se. But we do now have 2 metal festivals that are happening in São Paulo. I think it's the 2nd or 3rd year that we are having the Summer Breeze Festival has a Brazilian edition. It changed its name. That's very cool. But I think that the idea is to kind of mimic what happens in Germany here. So it's all about bringing the big international bands, not really. Sure, there are a lot of Brazilian bands playing as well, but it's not about the local bands, really. It's about bringing the big ones here, the big ones from Europe. And it changed its name from Summer Breeze. Now it's called Banger Festival. And And I think there was something.
I thought it was the other way around, that it had been a different festival and then it became Summer Breeze.
Yeah, and now it's Banger. Yeah. Yeah, because Summer Breeze is a more interesting brand than Banger, but yeah. And we do have the Not Fest festival as well.
Oh, nice.
That's nice. It's kind of far from where I live. It's a problem, but very nice. But the thing is, I think the three festivals are about, especially Banger and Notfest, they are about bringing big bands from Europe to play here, which is cool, of course. But I don't see that kind of integration with local bands and South American
scene.
bands. That would be cool. That would be really cool if we could have like Ecuadorian, Argentinian, Mexican bands playing here. That would be very, very cool.
Maybe the whole language and cultural differences do play a bit of a bigger role in there, because otherwise I wouldn't know how to explain that.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that you mention it, well, first of all, there was an Epic Fest, the festival that Epica had for like 2 years. Yeah. They also had a Brazilian edition back in the day. And then they stopped. And that was even before the pandemic, so I don't really know.
Yeah, I can only bet it's money problems, because it's always money problems.
Probably.
Yeah.
But Summer Breeze Brazil happened in April 2024 and had a pretty cool lineup, actually.
Yes.
There was Within Temptation, Epica, Killswitch Engage. And those are just, the ones that Lacuna Coil, also Nervosa. Yep. Battle Beast, and Mini Pony. And Mini Pony is an Ecuadorian metal band.
Cool.
Female fronted even.
There you go.
And it's really, really cool. It's just a trio. They're amazing. The vocalist does harsh vocals mainly. Her voice is really good. It's really cool. They just toured South America with Meshuggah.
Oh, nice. Fancy.
Yeah, they had a few dates in Colombia with them, it seems. So yeah, Mini Pony is my definite recommendation. I really like their music. I should listen to them more, actually. And that is honestly the only new younger band that I know of here in Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a few names that are still around from back before I moved to Germany, from almost 20 years ago. Yikes. Feeling old. So some of them are still around. Some of them aren't really. It's difficult. It's been really, really difficult to keep the underground scene afloat down here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Mini Pony has managed to grow and to grow that big. So that is a definite recommendation. We will link our recommendations, of course, in the show notes and in the episode description, so that you can all find them later. And yes,
I'll check them out. Speaking of younger bands, I do have some recommendations from Brazil of younger bands with female singers that I really admire, and they should be bigger. So let me do my thing and try to make them bigger. One of my favorites is not a small band per se. They're playing festivals in Brazil everywhere. I don't know if they had the opportunity to play abroad yet, but it's called Hateful Murder. The singer is called Angelica Burns, and they released one of my favorite albums in 2024. It's called I Am That Hate. They play kind of traditional death metal, which again is not what I listen to a lot. I'm usually listening to melodic death metal, but it's pretty cool. I saw them live once, I think 2023, in a festival in my hometown, which is great. And they were awesome. They really, really burned the place down. It was really fun. Another one that is a strong recommendation is a band called Corja. They are, again, my neighbors here in the northeast of Brazil. The singer is Haru Kaj, and they do, I don't know the label, but precisely, I would say like a progressive thrash, because they are very heavy but they can be very groovy. She is amazing. Her vocals is out of this world. I think she's kind of like Will Ramos from Brazil.
Oh, wow.
Which is bad comparing people like that. I know you shouldn't really compare artists like this. But I saw her live as well, and I was like, wow, Will Ramos right there. She's powerful.
Wow.
And the band has a very strong message of, against homophobia and for inclusion. So it's really cool. They sing in Portuguese, which is always so weird for me. I don't know why. Every time I listen, I'm like, what is this? Oh, it's Portuguese. I should be understanding what they're saying. But it's always catch me by surprise when I listen to bands singing in Portuguese. I guess I'm too much used to listening to singing and to bands singing in English. Yeah, they're just awesome. They are preparing a new album, and yeah, just gorgeous. Great. They're great. They should be bigger. It's amazing. I was very impressed with the quality production on their album, because it's a smaller band from the poorest region of Brazil. So I was expecting it to be really cool, because of course talent doesn't really change anything depending on where you were born, but maybe the production quality wouldn't be as great because maybe they wouldn't have access, whatever. But no, that was very stupid of me. The album is very well produced. It sounds great. It's really cool. And the last one that I would like to recommend is also a smaller band from Minas Gerais. And they took a break because I can only imagine that, being in a band is very hard, but they are coming back and they are promising a lot of things for 2025. It's a band called Satan, and they released a song after 7 years without releasing anything new. They released a single called Death Masks. I think it was December, the end of 2024. They even released like a Christmas version of the same song, like kind of making fun and challenging people online, saying like, I dare you, play this track on your Christmas with your family, like scare your grandma away with our songs during the Christmas celebration with your families. They released this like Christmas version of the song. So, and the singer is Mari Lopes, and I hope they don't have to take a break anytime soon, and I hope they come through with everything that they are promising for 2025. So yeah, I'm going to send you all the links, and we're going to link for everything that they're doing on the show notes.
And that's kind of it from my part, at least. I think we went over everything we were supposed to. I have one last shout out because I discovered this Mexican duo.
Wow.
Just recently. They make very chill goth rock. And I thought that was very refreshing. It's like a bit of an 80s The Cure comeback.
Nice.
And their name is Twin Tribes. And yeah, they describe themselves as dark melodic sounds, synthesizers, lyrics about the undead, the occult, and parallel universes. So
very gothic.
Yeah, Twin Tribes from Mexico. Yeah, I have them in my goth party playlist.
Cool.
It's very groovy in the very gloomy, dark way.
Dark but groovy. Sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely check out Mini Pony here from Ecuador. And I will try. I have 2.5 months more over here. Meanwhile, I will try to immerse myself a little more in the scene and try to get you all more recommendations. And other than that, you will be kind of hearing from me. Next week, you're going to travel back in time to an interview Martha and I had with Dark, German band that we talked to. It's a very, very interesting and sadly still very, very current topic. We talked about female-fronted bands and just being a woman in the metal scene in a band. Yeah. So definitely check that out. It's coming out next week. And yeah, we will keep in touch. We will see you around. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Suzana, where can people find us?
They can find us on Instagram at Bleeding Metal Pod. Do follow us. Do tell us your comments. Tell us what you think, recommendations. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube as well. We have a few new video interviews. And the more you subscribe to our account, the closer we are, to actually being able to live stream some of those interviews. So do check us out. We have interviews on there that are over 10 years old. So yeah, you can also check those out and have a laugh. But anyway, stay tuned and also take care. Thank you so much, Suzana, for this lovely conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.